So, have you ever pictured it? Building your own home from the ground up, designed exactly the way you've always wanted? It's a powerful dream for sure. But what does that dream actually cost in South Africa right now? Okay, let's get into it and break down the real numbers from the foundation all the way to the final coat of paint.
We all start with that vision, don't we? The perfect kitchen, the ideal layout, a space that is 100% you. But turning that vision into four walls and a roof, well, that needs a rock-solid financial plan. So let's get that reality check out of the way first.
And here it is, the very first number you absolutely have to burn into your brain. Building a new home from scratch typically costs 20 to 30% more right out of the gate than buying a similar existing house. Now that sounds like a lot, but here's the flip side, and it's a big one. You don't pay transfer duty. That's a massive tax on property purchases, and skipping it can save you an enormous chunk of cash.
To really get to the bottom of all this, we're going to walk through it step by step. We'll start with the most basic rule of thumb, the square meter rule. Then we'll see how your location can totally change the price. We'll uncover all those so-called hidden costs, add up the bills for your professional team, and finally, tackle the big one. Should you actually build or just buy? Let's jump in.
Okay, first things first, how on earth does anyone even start to guess the cost of an entire house? Well, it all begins with the most fundamental metric in the entire construction game. This right here is your golden number, the cost per square meter. Think of it as the price tag for every single square of your floor plan. But, and this is super important, it's just a baseline. It gives you a ballpark idea, but the final number is massively influenced by what we're about to look at next.
Now look at how dramatically that number can swing. The single biggest reason for this is the quality of your finishes. For a simple budget build, you're looking at somewhere between our $6,500 and our $9,000 per square meter. For a standard mid-range home, that jumps up to between our $10,000 and our $15,000. And if you're dreaming of high-end luxury, with imported materials and all the bells and whistles, the cost can just explode to our $30,000 or even over our $75,000 per square meter. That is a tenfold difference based on the taps, tiles, and countertops you choose. It's wild.
So, you've picked your quality level, great. But that's only half the story. The next huge question is, where are you building? Because in South Africa, the province you're in can change your budget by a mind-boggling amount.
And this chart just says it all, doesn't it? Let's take a pretty standard 150 square meter mid-range house. In the Northwest province, you could build that for around 1.3 million rand. Now, take that exact same house, same finishes, same everything, and build it in Gauteng, suddenly it's over 2.1 million. Move it to KwaZulu-Natal, the priciest province, and you're looking at almost 2.4 million rand. That's a 45% price difference just based on geography. It's a huge deal. Okay, so you've done the math on your core build cost based on size, quality, and location. But you are not done yet, not even close. Now we need to talk about everything the builder's initial quote almost never includes. These are the infamous hidden costs.
These things aren't really hidden, but they do add up. You've got a budget for prepping the land itself. I'm talking soil tests, digging foundations, connecting water and electricity. Then you've got the outside stuff, like a driveway and a fence. Inside, you'd be surprised, but even basic flooring might not be in that first quote. And don't forget, you'd have to pay for the temporary fencing and toilets for the builders, plus all the municipal fees to get your plans approved. And just to give you an idea of how big these costs can be, just getting the site ready to build on can set you back anywhere from 20,000 to over 150,000 rand. So the real cost of your land is what you paid for it, plus all these development costs.
And speaking of regulations, just look at this. Every single new home in South Africa has to be enrolled with the National Home Builders Registration Council, or NHBRC. You can't get a building loan without it. It's there to protect you and make sure things are built properly. But as you can see, it involves a mountain of paperwork and technical details. This is definitely not a do-it-yourself job. Which brings us perfectly to the team you need to hire to get through all this. These are what we call the soft costs. Basically, the fees for the experts who design, manage, and make sure your house is built correctly and legally. And these fees are a serious part of your budget, okay? They'll add another 10 to 20% on top of your construction cost. As you can see, the architect takes the biggest piece of the pie, usually somewhere between 6 and 12%, but you also need a structural engineer, a land surveyor, and, this one's critical, a quantity surveyor. That's the person who's like your project's accountant, keeping the whole budget from going off the rails. These people aren't optional luxuries, they're essential. Right. Now that we've piled up all the costs, we can finally face the ultimate question for anyone who wants a new home. In 2025, does it actually make more sense to build your dream from scratch or just go out and buy an existing one?
Let's break it down, side by side. Buying an existing home is usually quicker and cheaper up front, but you inherit all of its problems, and you might get hit with surprise renovation costs down the line. Building, on the other hand, costs more to start, but you get a brand new, low-maintenance home that's customized exactly for you. And you get that massive financial win. You pay zero transfer duty. That alone can save you tens, even hundreds of thousands of rand right at the start.
Phew, that was a ton of information, I know. So let's boil it all down into a clear, simple framework that you can actually use for your own budgeting.
Okay, let's put it all together. Here's your checklist. First, you need to understand your true total cost. That's your square meter rate, plus the provincial price difference, plus all those hidden costs, and the professional fees. Second, you absolutely must have a contingency fund of 10 to 15%. It is not optional, it's your financial safety net. Third, investigate your land like a detective. A cheap plot can become a nightmare if it costs a fortune to prep. And finally, always work with qualified, registered professionals. It's the best protection you've got.
Look, building a home is one of the biggest projects you will ever take on, financially and personally. It's complicated, it's expensive, but you know what? It's also incredibly rewarding. So now that you've got a much clearer picture of the real costs involved, the only question left is, what will you build?